Good evening. My name is Bernard Green. I'm a member of the Board of Selectmen here in Brookline. And the Board of Selectmen is the issuing authority for the RCN license. I will be chairing this evening's ascertainment hearing. I'd like to thank members of the town's cable oversight committee for their guidance concerning cable-related negotiations. Tonight, notice of tonight's hearing has been published in the Brookline Tab on October 26, 2017 and November 2nd, 2017. I can provide a copy of those notices for the public record. Tonight's hearing is mandated by the renewal provisions of the Federal Cable Act. The current cable television license held by RCN will expire on April 27, 2018. The town is currently involved in the federally required ascertainment process. The purpose of tonight's hearing is 1, to identify future cable-related community needs and interests, and 2, to review the performance of RCN under its current cable television license. Once the town has gathered community input, it will forward the results to RCN. Thus, the testimony that you will give tonight is very important, and I encourage you to speak candidly and specifically about any cable-related issues that you're concerned with. You must come up and provide testimony in order for your views to count and be a part of the official record. And please come up to the microphone here and give those comments. When you come up to speak, please give your name and address. Because this is an ascertainment hearing for the town, I ask that you not pose direct questions for RCN to answer, but rather all testimony and or inquiry should be directed to me as the chair of the meeting. Finally, I'd like to clarify that while this is an ascertainment hearing on cable television matters, there are 2 related subjects over which the Board of Selectmen has no authority to regulate. The first is the rates that RCN charges for its services, and the second is the commercial programming that RCN chooses to show on its cable system. I realize that these are important issues for many individuals, but they are beyond our authority. However, if you want to make a comment about them in your presentation, that is not prohibited. It's important for everyone to realize that the selectmen cannot mandate the specific rates that RCN can charge, nor can the selectmen mandate the commercial programming that RCN carries on its Brookline cable system. With those introductory comments, I will open the hearing to comments and testimony from the public. As I said, please come up to the microphone and give your comments. You want to start? Okay.
Good evening, everybody. I can't tell, I'm assuming the mic is probably for our Brookline Interactive Group. The telephone cameras back in the back there. We have a lot of cameras that are filming this live tonight, and it's on the cable channels, and it's also streaming live on the World Wide Web as well. So I'm Kathy Bisbee. I'm a Brookline resident, and I'm the executive director of Brookline Interactive Group. First of all, I want to thank our Honorable Selectman Bernard Green for being here this evening to witness all of our community's testimony, to the town and to the RCN representatives, and to members of the public who've come out today to support community media in Brookline. I also want to thank town employees Austin Faison, Mel Kleckner, Melissa Klopp, the Cable Advisory Committee, the Board of Selectmen for your support negotiating the successful contract with Comcast 2 years ago. We hope you will be as successful in your negotiations with RCN on our community's behalf. We also want to thank RCN for giving Big an HD channel 2 years ago, which means that their community channel is much higher quality than Comcast at the moment. We want to convey our gratitude to the 80+ community members who spoke up at the public hearings 2 years ago for their support of Big's work as your community media center, and to those who came tonight and those who couldn't be here tonight but wrote incredible letters about their support and involvement at Big. I will present the representatives here with a packet of all of these letters of support that we received, including a very nice one from our Congressman Joe Kennedy. This is a community that supports BIG's vision for the future as an innovation center for community storytelling, a community that values critical thinking, media literacy, who supports independent local media and real news, has a passion for creativity, and who wants to pilot change regionally, nationally, and even globally. On behalf of BIG, Brookline residents, and our youth, I want to ask RCN and the town to negotiate quickly on our behalf to continue full funding and support for a thriving and innovative community media ecosystem in Brookline. And we have a couple of specific asks, closed captioning, and I'll quickly review these for the sake of time. Closed captioning, we'd like to offer translation services and closed captioning so that all members of our community have access to our community programs and cable television. We'd like to see our channels added to the RCN cable programming guide. Residents often tell us that they have trouble finding BIG's programming in the RCN program guide. And we'd like to make sure that we're easily accessible to the whole community. We'd like to have access to viewership information to gain adequate data to understand and promote our community television programs, to gain sponsorship dollars to support our operations, which are currently at capacity. And if RCN could provide this information, it would help us immensely. We'd also like to ask for advertising on other cable channels. In fact, 4 promotional ads per quarter that could run on popular channels during peak times to better support our community engagement and our outreach efforts for our community media programs. BIG has widespread support in this community and an active engaged membership that use its facilities. Over 75% of our field equipment is checked out regularly, and we have 18 studio shows and growing being shot at BIG every month, and hours of content that's being shot and edited in the field. We have new programs that will engage the community further than ever before and need to be securely funded. BIG is a leader in our field of community media, as you'll see by many of the references in these letters. And we've been invited to present in regional, national, and even internationally. So we're here to urge you to support full funding for BIG. We've been at the same level of funding for 10 years. In order to continue serving the community, we must keep the current levels of funding and find increased funding to cover rising costs of healthcare for our employees, operating our equipment, purchasing equipment, and meeting the operations and capital needs of our community. Last year, we lost over $37,000 in cable subscriber fees in funding. And while we're working to diversify our funding, we need that continued support from RCN and the town to continue that community coverage, facility, and cable channel management, our after-school programs, our educational services, and to plan for the future needs of our community. And I'm going to try to be quick with this, but I do want folks to understand the extent to which we've grown in the last 2 years since the Comcast hearings 2 years ago. And in the past, just the past year, we've been very busy with our new programs, increasing accessibility, implementing training outcomes to serve the community's media and communications needs. So I want to give you a couple of those. We rebuilt the entire Selectmen's hearing room this year with new cameras, switchers, routers. We added an additional camera for some new perspectives of the town selectmen, and we replaced decade-old equipment. And in fact, this very room just this week got outfitted so that we would be able to stream live from this room and also from the room across the hall when community groups are having meetings in here. We want to make sure that that's accessible to our community. We rewired new technology at Brookline High School Auditorium so that the town meeting and all community events and performances from that location could be easily covered live. We updated our streaming technology, adding bandwidth when very important local issues caused hundreds of online viewers to watch live government proceedings this year, which caught us a little bit off guard, but we increased it, and now thousands of people can log on and watch town selectmen meetings when they are very interesting, and they are, very much so. We manage the facility at the Unified Arts Building with community members, groups, teachers, school and town departments, town committees, all using our staff support and reserving the use of our theater, the studio, the labs, and the conference rooms every day. In fact, we facilitated over 300 room reservations for school and town departments, community groups, members, and school clubs. And we've covered 51, on average, 51 Board of Selectmen meetings this past year, 60 school committee meetings, because there's been a lot of school-related topics this year, 39 zoning Board of Appeals meetings, which was something new we added this year, and 22 PTO meetings, which is also something new that we added this year as well. We also have 345 youth and adults passing through our facility every week. That's a lot of volume. We covered 651 hours of local government. We developed 28 new after-school programs. We offered 50 individual classes to 280 youth and adult participants. We made it easier to remotely broadcast from community events out in the field, to and from Big and any location. We rebuilt our reservation system, fine-tuned our membership training pipeline. We purchased a broadcast server that frees up more staff time to support the needs of members in the community. And that server also enables the community to post their own content on the cable channels, post scrolling text for emergencies, and to be able to add their content digitally. So it's saving us a lot of time, and it's making it a little more easy for folks to be able to upload their content. We gave out $5,000 in production grants to residents for the past 2 years, generating new locally focused quality production content and 360 video. We created a monthly community journalism project and collaborated with a regional project called Beyond Boston with 5 other media centers in the area. And our big volunteers created stories about the Brookline Food Pantry, the Goddard House Gardens, which won an award. And actually, I think Ginny's going to come here tonight. She just came back from a national conference where they won an award for our documentary that our volunteers worked on with them for Goddard House. We also covered more elections, housing in Brookline, and covered residents who marched in Boston and DC's women's marches. We completed a filmmaking program for low-income women. We built a town resource database called the Thrive Guide. And we launched 2 11-day film sprints, and one of them is actually back at Big right now, watching all their films and receiving their awards, so we wish them luck. We created Crowdsource Boston, which is a collaborative media arts project where 46 individual teams each made a 1 to 4 minute scene from Back to the Future, and we remade and edited together the entire Back to the Future, and it's going to be screened both on our cable channels and also on November 29th at the Coolidge Theater, so please come to that. We have a new partnership with Steps to Success, who partnered with us to launch a new job training program at Brookline High School, and with BPS to provide coverage of their professional development trainings. We also have some new programs with the Teen Center and the Senior Center this year, where we demo virtual reality, we teach media classes, and we train the next generation of content creators. We're really building here in Brookline for the new creative economy. And we overall also worked with the Gateway Arts and Ivy Street School, where adults and youth with differing abilities created digital stories about their work and artwork. And we generated an increased participation in our productions, our classes, our events, programming, and use of our facility. I'm going to tell you about one last project that we've been, I think, pretty pioneering about over the last year in innovation and storytelling and emerging media. We were the first public organization in the country that made virtual reality accessible to the community, along with our sister station in Northampton. We co-founded the Public VR Lab, which is a project of Big, where residents can come in every Wednesday night between 5 and 8. And we also go out to the Senior Center and the Teen Center, and they can demo over 100 experiences, games, stories in virtual reality. We developed last fall a virtual reality academy for youth, and we're working with career tech teachers at Brookline High School, where we had 17 interns alone just this summer, who created programming for video, web, cable channels, and also in VR. We had a virtual reality hackathon, the first of its kind also, on climate change, where teachers and students and young people work together to create content. And we created a web-based 360 public monument project with the town of Brookline, with high-quality DSLR photos and video content, which is currently airing on our cable channels, but can also be accessed on the web or in virtual reality. We trained journalists from the Boston Globe to create immersive news content. We launched a 3-story 360 collaboration with the Globe at Hub Week this week, and we created an illustrated 360 video of Town Hall. And the United Nations has invited us and provided funding, which we're very happy about, for us to go to Kenya, to the Environmental Assembly of the UN, this December to demonstrate the value of immersive storytelling and to compel action around global pollution problems. We're very excited about that, but even better We won an award for the best public access station in the entire country this year. That was pretty darn good. And 3 of our members also won awards for the best in their category, so we're very excited about that. In conclusion, the need for community media, local news, for expertise in innovation in education and in storytelling, for increased transparency in government, in media, and for free speech has perhaps never been greater in our nation. Not every community has a big, and I'm honored to serve our community by protecting each voice in Brookline and providing space for difficult dialogues at times about what is best for our community and for our country. I hope you'll come into BIG in 2017 and 2018 and make your voice heard. Thank you so much for your time and consideration, and for everyone for their letters of support. And thank you to RCN and the team at the town for what I hope will be a very successful negotiation. Thank you so much, and I'll present these letters of support to Bernard as a representative. Thank you so much.
I think how we're going to work this is you raise your hand and I'll recognize you to come up. Any other testimony? Go ahead first.
We have a list?
Oh, there is a list?
Is there a list? Yes.
Where is it? Back here.
Pass it around over.
I apologize.
Thank you.
Aspen Johnson, that.
Hi, I am Aspen Johnson Zagar, 44 Harvard Avenue, Massachusetts. I am almost 10 years old in 2 weeks. I attend Pierce School as a 4th grader in Mr. Collins' class. For a little over a year and a half, I have been the co-host of the Guy Report. It is a show I wanted to start that focuses on green news, sustainability, and inspirational guests. My mom is the other co-host. How the Guy Report came to be is that I participated in the Devotion Science Fair about 4 years ago. I presented a project on alkalizing the oceans. The next year, I wanted to do another science project on the oceans, but with different focuses, because I learned new information about jellyfish. But the next Devotion Science Fair was not on the ocean again, so I asked my mom to help me start a science fair at my school, Pierce School. Now, we have the 3rd annual Brookline Youth Climate Adaptation Challenge coming up in April. When we held our first Brookline Youth Climate Adaptation Challenge, kids from all Brookline public schools were represented from kindergarten to 12th grade. Almost 50% of the participants were students of color, and the majority of participants were girls who rock in science. It was a fun, high-energy day packed with people. Originally, we borrowed equipment from BIG to just tape interviews with participants, but we soon discovered that so many people, from the participating kids to their parents to observers who stopped by to the judges and others, had fascinating ideas and were fun to talk with. This led us to propose to BIG our show, The Guy Report. They loved it and have supported us so much. Thank you, BIG. Once a month, we have guests on our show, both youth guests to share their ideas, thoughts, projects, and adult guests. I also give news updates and segments, such as how I have sustainable birthday parties, how to be eco-friendly on the holidays, and how to pack sustainable lunches for kids. What toxins are in your home that can be removed? Who are the kids suing Exxon and the U.S. government for suppressing global warming info since the 1970s, and many other relevant topics. The speaking experience has been the absolute best for me. One adult guest invited me to her International Youth Summit in Boston, which led me to representing my 2 science projects in the oceans at the United Nations World Energy Forum last year. I received a Sustainability Youth Leadership Award. None of this would have happened without BIG. BIG has been the best learning tool for me and young guests. The young guests have told me they really liked being on the show, even if they were nervous and embarrassed at first. Other school kids have told me that they saw my show. They give comments on what they like and what they do not like. I tell kids that if they have an idea they should present to BIG, they can help shape it. I am so thankful to BIG, and as I get older, I look forward to having a show that focuses on my love of music and sports. There are tons and tons of Brookline tweens or teens who have been playing musical instruments and sports since they were super young. I want to have a show that highlights them as talented guests and includes organized jamming in the studio, and also includes outside footage of them enjoying their sport. I'm not sure of the exact format yet, but I'll talk with Kathy, Aaron, and Corbin at BIG. And I am sure we can create something incredible, creative, progressive, and fun that serves the Brookline youth that people will also love to watch. I request that the town of Brookline Selectmen fund BIG for the biggest amount of money you have ever given to them, so they can continue to do great things for Brookline youth and have big impacts. I always say at the end of my segments on the Guy Report, on behalf of Mother Nature, thank you. Rock on.
Well, as a member of the Board of Selectmen, I'm convinced that BIG is a great, great operation. Next is Crystal Johnson.
I'm Crystal Johnson, 44 Harvard Avenue, Brookline. Thank you, Town of Brookline. Thank you, Selectman Green. I'm Crystal Johnson, and I first moved to Brookline in 1987. I'm an environmental planner and climate adaptation specialist with over 25 years of experience. Within the last several years, I've discovered BIG. My son and I now have an environmental news show at BIG, the Gaia Report. We launched the Gaia Report to showcase Brookline youth who are participating in our premier Brookline Youth Climate Adaptation Challenge. BIG, with supporting the Gaia Report, has given Brookline youth kindergarten through 12 and aspiring Brookline residents an opportunity to share their climate adaptation ideas and voices. Together with BIG, my son and I have grown the show. We have enjoyed having diverse special adult guests on our show, ranging from Massachusetts political eco-leaders, including Massachusetts State Rep. Smisek and Massachusetts State Senator Eldridge, to Brookline residents who are college professors in the forefront of solutions planning, community eco-activists, religious institution eco-leaders, environmental professionals, and more. BIG themselves filmed last year's annual Brookline Youth Climate Adaptation Challenge, in which all youth participants were interviewed. All participants absolutely loved having their ideas presented on local cable for their friends, their families, neighbors, classmates, and others to see. We received tremendous positive feedback regarding the opportunity and the experience of such. That wonderful impact would really not have occurred without BIG, so thank you. In addition, Mothers Out Front, a national organization, and the Peer School PTA are now large supporters of the upcoming 3rd annual Brookline Youth Climate Adaptation Challenge because they saw our show. Brookline residents have actually approached me at Trader Joe's and elsewhere commenting that they enjoy the show, and that always leads to discussion on the valued show programs that are at BIG. It really is such an amazing feeling to know that the work that I put into developing a show is really technically supported by BIG. And then to learn that people watch it is even better. The show is also uploaded onto YouTube in shorter segments, and you can really see then that other people watch. So the work that BIG does have impact. My son is excited to continue with our show, and in the few years he wants to have another show that focuses on young teens. He's talked about it with his friends to test interest, and he's received excellent feedback, and so we're excited about the positive impact it will have on Brookline youth. I have connected with contacts of other shows at BIG, and I was impressed to learn that they hold activities at BIG to support artists, and they're also very active with the Brookline Chamber of Commerce and are constantly thinking of how to connect to local businesses. BIG plays a tremendous role in what makes Brookline such a unique and special place to live. A job offer came to me that would have taken me to California. One of my first thoughts was that my son and I love our show and we love BIG. And I've also had friends who moved to other towns due to cost of living issues. And while I have very briefly thought of doing that, BIG is a big reason to stay. Given all the money that I contribute to this town in many ways, I request that it be spent to support BIG and that the town seek additional funding of BIG also. The investment can be measured in many positive ways with triple bottom line impact. The community media resources that BIG provides is invaluable. It adds tremendous value to me, my son, Brookline youth, diverse Brookline families, Brookline schools, and more. Your continued support of BIG is requested. I request that the town of Brookline, town selectmen, Green, others support full funding of capital and staff support of BIG from Comcast and RCN. It is also my hope that the town seeks and receives full funding from different sources, again, for community media resources need. I also request, lastly, that you support BIG to have more locations, staffing, and funding. It contributes to Brookline's residents' lives, including but not limited to the elderly Brookline citizens in my mother's building at 1550 Beacon Street, who watch the local cable show to know what is happening in the community. So thank you.
Thank you. Sandy Ornstein?
I'm Sandy Ornstein. I moved into 77 Parkman Street 41 years ago this month. I came up here from Pennsylvania, and I went to Pennsylvania from Brooklyn, New York. I left New York City about the time the first cable licenses were being granted to provide service to residents in Manhattan. I never got to see what was done with cable TV in Manhattan. In Pennsylvania, I had a rotating TV antenna on my chimney about 45 feet above the ground, so I could see the broadcast signals coming from Philadelphia. Sometimes I could see signals from New York City, but they're weak. If you're over the horizon with a broadcast season, that signal, you don't see anything. And cable TV companies came about because people over the horizon knew that if they put an antenna up high enough or licensed the signal from the TV broadcast companies over a telephone line, they could redistribute it. And that became known as a cable access TV station. I used to drive up into the Great North Woods of New Hampshire, and I would drive by this cyclone fenced area. It was about a quarter of an acre, and there would be 6 or 8 satellite dishes sitting there. And as long as you were within 3 miles of those dishes, you could see the images they brought down on the satellite. And of course, you paid for the service. I came to Boston. I no longer had a rotating TV antenna. I'm down on the ground near street level. And what I saw with my indoor TV antenna, because I could not have a roof antenna, was 4 images. I could even tell you which buildings they came from after a while, because technology is something that comes to me. The problem with broadcasting signals way above the ground is they bounce around. And if you're just outside the city, you get a pretty good signal. If you're inside the city, you see multiple images. So at least you're used to with the analog signals. The new digital signals for TV are supposed to solve that problem, but really what happens is the image just freezes and you don't get to see the program. So I subscribed to cable television because it was the only way to get a TV signal. And like I said, I came from Brooklyn. I lived in a small town in Pennsylvania, and when I came here, I'd never lived in a community with a town meeting. I'd never lived in a community with a town supervisor. And I got to learn about those things by watching town meetings, by watching the selectmen, by watching all sorts of hearings in the town. And that was very educational. provided to me by what was then called Brookline Access Television, now known as Brookline Interactive Group. We can fast forward a little bit. Life brought me way too much time, way too early. You can only watch so many movies. I could only watch so many books. I could only go for so many walks, especially when the temperatures dropped. So I was on the prowl for things to do. And I walked into Brookline Interactive Group in 2010, and they proceeded to show me how to use the control room, the studio, the lights, the cameras, how to produce, write, storyboard, and crew, get crew for videos. And I've been doing video production ever since. I saw performances at the high school, meetings, just a bunch of stuff that I wouldn't see, and normally I was standing behind a camera when I did that. And I found that very interesting. I got to speak to Deval Patrick one night. More than once I've gotten to talk to Mike Dukakis, simply because I was there. And they're interested in people who were there. So I've come to encourage you to continue full funding of Brookline Interactive Group, because I find their service valuable. They provide me with endless entertainment, both in my living room and out playing with their toys, as I say. And as a citizen in Brookline, I had a single complaint. RCN offered to hook up my building to their service just once. And I've asked them 4 times to hook us up since then and gotten no reply. I'd like to have competition when I buy broadband services or cable TV service, and I don't. I have only one provider accessible, and I'd like you to change that. So let me say again, thanks to Brookline Interactive Group, and thanks to the town of Brookline for keeping them on the air.
Thank you. Next is Lin Chen.
Hi everyone, my name is Lin Chen. I am at 1302 Commonwealth Avenue. I'm a Boston University graduate. I'm originally from Florida, and I moved up to Brookline in 2012, so 5 years ago. And I'm a young professional working in Boston now. So I really do think that Brookline Interactive is a great resource for the community. I got involved probably a year ago and have participated in at least 3 projects with them over the last year, which is the 11-day film sprint, the Crowdsource Boston, and the VR Eco Hack that happened earlier this year. All of them have been really great experiences for me, and I've learned a lot of new technologies and software and coding through all those experiences that have really given me confidence in my ability to do really great things. And I think the experience that I enjoyed the most was the VR Eco Hack earlier this year, which we were able to work with a team to create a VR experience that taught people about issues that are pertaining to the environment and how to solve them. And not only did that teach me a new technology, it also gave me the confidence to look for a new job, and I was able to find a new job in the solar industry earlier this year as a result. So I think I have to thank BIG for that experience. And I think in the future I'm going to continue to work with BIG. I definitely want to be able to learn new technology and create new content, and I also want to be able to share that with the community, and I know a lot of the people that use the resources there feel the same way. So I think it's a great resource in that respect. So I hope that it continues to get the funding and support that it needs, and thank you for supporting us as content creators.
Thank you. Next is Beth Jones.
My name is Beth Jones. I live at 24 Griggs Road. I'm going to be looking down because my notes are on my phone, so that you're not looking at my feet. BIG is an extraordinary resource. It is an unbelievably valuable component of this community, and when I found it, which was initially through my son, I felt that we had been given a gift. It was an opportunity for my son, who is not your typical baseball playing, soccer ball kicking kid, to have a place to participate. And it is, I mean, it makes me a little weepy because this place has it is a meaningful place. It is beyond being a facility that teaches technology to the community. It is so far beyond that it's difficult for me to express it. I'm taking a class there now in digital storytelling. It is not the first class I've taken there. My son received an award for the best student-made film a couple of years ago, and I wish I could show you the picture of him and his filmmaking partner, who was the scriptwriter. My son was the director, and they had the staff of BIG acting in it, throwing themselves around the room. And they made this fantastic film, and they were 10, I think, 10 or 11 tops, and it's an amazing place. It is a resource for everybody in this community, for children after school programs, for adults, for seniors, for anyone for working with the special needs community. Everybody has a place at BIG, and that is one of the things that I think is extraordinary about it. There is no limitation. And although everybody is welcome, after I've been there when high school students are sleeping on the couches because perhaps they don't have any place else to go, but the doors are open. Kids work there, kids show up there. Nobody has ever turned away. My 86-year-old and 84-year-old parents tried VR for the first time in their lives on a Wednesday night at BIG. I don't know that they would have had the opportunity to do that. Every night before my son went to his tennis class a couple of years ago, or last year, he would go to the VR opportunity. I don't know who am I speaking to that I need to convince? Because whoever, you, there is no reason not to support this to the fullest extent possible, to open new sites around the town and to give BIG everything they need, because we need them more than they need us in some ways. And the funding, unfortunately, we all need money, and BIG deserves to have what they need. What else did I want to say? For people who are not able to come to these meetings, they have a way to see them. For people, I was at BIG last night, and somebody was. They could be made in a rich and remarkable community, and there are many ways for us to promote it. And the resources available at BIG are a way to expand what we do and what we're interested in. There are PSAs that are made. Oh, I've seen the PSAs that the high school kids have made. Have you seen the PSAs that the high school kids have made? You need to see them. You need to show them to him. They are these incredible PSAs that the kids made. Was it a competition, or did they just do them as a project? oh, it was for voting, it was for, I don't know, trash collection. There were all these PSAs that the students made that were really phenomenal. The staff works really hard, really, really hard. I'm sure they could be paid a lot more for what it is that they're doing, and they're there late at night. I've seen them because I've been there late at night. It is really, it's an important place that has impact. And I know that there are other people who want to speak, so I'm going to leave it at that. But whatever I could do to provide a way for BIG to continue to be what it is and more, I would do it. I would show up here at 3 in the morning. I would, whatever needs to happen, I would do it, because this is, I don't know how to express it to you in a way that really can communicate the impact that it has had on me personally, on people I know, on people that I have seen there, and the fact that it is it's beyond being a resource. It's a place that provides, it's a place to go where people who, you know what, I'm going to stop. It is a great place, and it needs support and money.
Thank you. This hearing is about RCN's license.
Oh, and RCN, yes, that too. RCN and Comcast. I'm sorry, I had that written down, I forgot. I'm sorry.
And RCN's support of BIG is a very important aspect of our evaluation of the license. So your comments are well taken. But let's try to say a few things about RCN. Having said that, though, let me just mention that your recording of the Board of Selectmen's meetings has an impact. A lot of people watch those, and they tell me such things as, sit up straighter, talk louder. So there's a little anecdote about the effectiveness of the big program. Next, Debbie Turner.
Good evening. My name is Debbie Turner, 1111 Beacon Street, Brookline. I am the Assistant Technology Director at the Ivy Street School here in Brookline. I don't know much about RCN because I recently moved here from Atlanta about a year ago. But I am here this evening to say a few words about how Brookline Interactive has supported our students at Ivy, and to urge you to support a strong renegotiation with our community's cable company franchise. Since 1993, the Ivy Street School has been helping teens and young adults gain the skills they need to successfully transition to adult life. We support students in overcoming the challenges of autism, behavioral health diagnosis, brain injuries, and other neurological conditions. Part of our vision at Ivy is for our students to use technology responsibly and to be positive digital contributors. It is our goal at Ivy Street School to support students in developing digital skills and enabling each to be responsible, productive, and beneficial users of digital technologies and media. The Ivy Street School has formed a partnership with Brookline Interactive to help our students acquire new digital skills. Last year, a group of Ivy students piloted a program at BIG where they received training and learned the skills of using the basic tools and equipment involved in broadcasting. They acquired the skills needed to plan broadcast, operate video equipment, and conduct interviews. Because of this training, the students have gone on to create their own student-led, in-house Ivy Street News broadcast. I feel that Ivy Street and Brookline are so very fortunate to have the community resources that are offered through Brookline Interactive. I urge you to strongly support Brookline Interactive Group during the renegotiation process for their continued high-quality community media services and for funding for the town of Brookline. Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you. Next is Matthew Weiss. How you doing?
Good. Yeah, we do a show on Big, and we do it for seniors. It's called the Age-Friendly Cities Show. The age in 2012, the World Health Organization established that Brookline was the first city and the first community in New England to be designated an age-friendly city. And the reason it was a whole set of things that were done that were a result of the board of selectmen, of the people in town, a lot of residents working, seniors and others, and town departments, and the volunteer organizations like Brookline Can. There's a bunch of volunteer organizations that took the mission. A year later, the board created a subcommittee, a committee called the Age-Friendly Cities Committee, that reports to the board. And then after that, we established a team, a sub-team of pure volunteers, absolute novices, that didn't know what they were doing, to continue a TV show. Years before, there had been a TV show for seniors that sort of disappeared. My job on the committee, on the Age-Friendly Cities Committee, was information dissemination. So I handled social media areas, and not then yet, but I have since. And I became part of this team. And it turns out that this show and things we do on it, because it never dies. It's on YouTube, it's on our Facebook account, and our and Big's Facebook account. It's every place. And I get calls from relatives across the country that have picked it up online and say, "Oh, I just saw a good one. You know, you had this the head of the board of selectmen on. That was great." Or that's the Parks Department. I saw that new park you're doing in Brookline. That's fabulous. And this is true. And this goes on and on. So it's been done only one way, by the help of Big and by this thing. And they really helped us. They've taken us out. We've interviewed the head of the Brookline Commission on Disability, and we looked at spaces that we need, handicap spaces. Big sent people out into the field with us taking pictures and movies and videotape in the middle of the street, and helped us put it on. They help us edit. They give us advice. And when the show is run, they support us from beginning to end. So that's big. I must say that the seniors, and this is a method of delivering information to seniors and everybody else. So people watch it. But the thing that, the only concern that I have is a lot of the I don't use RCN. Okay? I have to have Comcast. But an awful lot of the seniors I talk to in the senior center and the people we have just interact with use RCN and depend on it. And it's their phone company, it's their television, it's their access to Big. They say, "When's the show on?" They pick it up from RCN. They don't even know it's on Comcast, and they don't know it's anyplace else. That's it. So I'm just here to ask, come back to Big and say, please support them, because that supports us.
Thank you. If there are people in the audience who would like to speak who haven't signed up on the sheet, there's a sheet up here on the table. Just come up and put your name down. Next is Lorrie Landy.
Hello, I'm Lorrie Landy, and I live at 25 Brook Street. We're going to have something different.
Do you need my address, by the way?
It's on here.
It's on it.
You know where you are.
The community media resources provided by Brookline Interactive Group contribute a vital aspect to the town of Brookline and its residents. At this time, when we were renegotiating the agreement with the cable company RCN that supports BIG, I urge you to consider the irreplaceable value BIG delivers. My experience with BIG has satisfied needs for different aspects of my life as a Brookline resident, as an artist, a college professor, community member, a concerned citizen, and a mother. As an artist, I use BIG's facilities to film the singer-songwriter whose animated music video I am making. I used cameras and green screen for the video, the studio for motion capture, and the 3D scanner to acquire better assets than what I could have made with my own equipment or facilities. I've also taken classes to learn new skills for creating virtual reality content. BIG's programs, resources, and contacts have been valuable to me in my profession as a college professor of visual culture and new media studies at Berklee College of Music. Through classes I've taken and events I've attended, I've been able to learn new technologies and tools quickly and bring that knowledge to my students and colleagues. At BIG, I met people who worked for companies such as Unity and Facility, who have become important contacts for me and my projects at Berklee College of Music. BIG has contributed to my students' educational experience as well. Two of my best students were interns at BIG in the summer, and I've been inviting students who are in an informal VR club to come over to BIG for events and classes. And it's the kind of place where there's that multi-generational focus where people who are interested in the same things can all be together and learn together, and it's very exciting in that way. I also benefit from BIG as a community member when it hosts the meetup group Women in the Next Realities, which addresses issues and concerns facing women who are in a minority in a field of new media and emerging technologies. As a member of the steering committee of that group, I appreciate BIG's accessible facilities and convenient location and friendly atmosphere, factors that make it easier for women to participate in that field. The excellent work BIG does around environmental and community issues, including the VR Eco Hack event, and raising awareness about Brookline history and experiences of its community members, addresses my needs as a concerned citizen. Finally, and maybe most importantly, BIG has played a significant role in my children's lives. Now 12, my twins have participated in BIG classes for many years now. In a time when schools are cutting back on education around arts and media, BIG offers them hands-on experience with cameras, directing and editing in a television studio environment. Direct experience with how what appears on their screens gets there has given them enjoyable lessons in media literacy, whether through experiments with green screen or editing tricks, or through solving problems collaboratively. They have learned to think critically and creatively, express themselves in groups, and many other skills, all in the guise of activities and vacation camp. I love that my sons have experienced the older technology in a real television studio, as well as the new, making art for VR in one-day workshops, and currently using iPads in a BIG course that meets at the Brookline Teen Center. In conclusion, BIG provides high-quality media services and education for all ages of Brookline residents. BIG is crucial to maintaining the excellence and innovation that characterizes the quality of life in Brookline. I urge you to continue your support of BIG in the renegotiation with the cable provider and in all other ways.
Thank you. Next is Phillip Harrington.
Hi, Phillip Harrington, 10 Edwin Street, Brookline, Mass. And like everyone else informed me, unfortunately, I'm here just to talk and praise BIG. Good news is I've got nothing bad to say about RCN. I'm here actually, though, a little different hat. I'm a town employee. I'm actually a Brookline police officer, and I'm here speaking as my role as a police officer. We use social media we do pretty well, I think. We use Twitter, Facebook page, we run a web page. And we also am involved in the training division, and we started making some training films. They were a disaster. So we reached out to BIG, we met with Kathy's staff, and right away Kathy and her staff said, how can we help you out? We want to be part of this. And that's really why I'm here. Yes, we're a town agency, and she's come to help us out. She wants to make sure we put out a good product. And it's not just training films we're looking to do, but also social media films, and recruitment videos and things like that. So I just ask you to support, as Kathy said, it's good. She's got some great staff. It costs money to keep good staff, and I ask that you continue to support the organization.
Thank you. Randy Herman.
Good evening. My name's Randy Herman. I am not a Brookline resident. I live in Arlington, but I found out about BIG through some events that were held there, and I investigated and decided to become a member, in part because they allow that, and for a nominal fee, I get access to this tremendous resource. I decided to join because, as a realtor, I needed to understand about video and to learn how to use it. I have a background in the arts. I went to the Boston Museum School, Tufts University. I got a MFA from BU, and I taught overseas. I've taught at the Hudson River Museum on a project Reach Out community program there. I've taught briefly in the Boston Public Schools. I currently believe and live the world of art, although on my tax returns I put I'm a realtor. I've been so impressed by BIG and what they have to offer, not just the classes that they hold or the program that they allow me to do, an educational program called Everything Real Estate, but also the creativity that they foster. And nowadays, as we all know, the video and the visual arts are becoming a main source of communication. It's just so important that this kind of communication is accessible for everyone. And many people are put off by the technology. BIG makes it simple, they make it practical, they make it fun. And to foster that, I think, is just so important. I go into houses all day long, and I see the way people live. And one of the things that has struck me is how few books there are nowadays in people's homes. What I do see is I see 5 TV screens in every home, 1 in every room. And why? Because video is a constant source of communication now, of entertainment, of education. So I think we need to just make sure that we keep addressing this. BIG does that tremendously. They have, because of my association with them, I have now joined the Arlington Public ACMI station there, and I'm doing work there as well. It's just opened up a whole new world for me, and I think it does for so many people. So I encourage you, please, to give generously to this great organization. They have a tremendous, I speak as a former teacher, they have just a tremendous staff that is so helpful and above all patient beyond belief with people who are just beginning to use this medium. So it's a great resource and it should be supported. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Lorrie Landy.
Brookline resident and a mom. Think of that. This is what he wanted to do on his big Friday. And I am also a board member of Brookline Interactive Group, and I have been involved with them actually because of my son. I got involved in the technology group at his school, which is Devotion School, and I was guiding Devotion on sort of how they might get more technology in the building. And I don't know about technology, but I know about kids programming. And so that's why I was kind of there. I used to make interactive educational games for WGBH, and I did that for many years. And what I've come to believe, and the reason that I am still involved with BIG and now the board chair, is that I see, and I've heard this voiced by so many people, and I'm like, yes, is that media making is so important now. We are no longer just passive recipients of media, but that our kids need to learn how to communicate in this way, in the way that I didn't have to, and I don't think you did either. And we've got to understand all the messages that are coming at us, being able to look at what's being presented to us through media, because it's being made by so many different people, and understand why those decisions were made and where the truth is. So to be able to think really critically about media, I think is as important. And you can learn to do that by learning to make it, because you know what goes into it. So I really feel like the programming that we do, in particular for young people, but also for grown-ups like me, is really important. And we rely very heavily on the funding sources from the cable companies between Comcast and RCN, and we really could not do what we do without that. And it is through that money that we can offer all of these educational programs and do a deep dive into new media. We see our role in the community as an educational resource. When I was working at WGBH, they were trying to sort of find their relevance with television and video programming being available online. People aren't necessarily watching local television. They were trying to figure that out, right? And so we were looking at relevance. And what you can see at GBH and in other public TV stations is they're now really investing in local programming. They realize that that's where their money is, and that's where their community is. We are already doing that because we foster that in Brookline. We help people make media, and there's nothing more local than that. And so I think that what we're doing here, and I'm so glad to hear what we're doing here, is important and vital. In particular because our schools can't really do this for our kids. I think that their funding is stretched as everyone's is, and media making and media literacy kind of falls through the cracks. And I think it's really important that BIG stay a vital part of the community to help support and be a part of that school system. So I'm going to urge you to have really great, meaningful conversations and negotiations with RCN and come up with some good funding for us to sustain what we're doing for our community and for being thought leaders across the nation. Because I think one of the things that we are able to do under the leadership of Kathy, and I think this is so amazing, is that we are, by looking out at what the future of community media can be, we are helping other community media centers rise to that and sort of meet the future of what they need to be. And I think that without the funding specifically for BIG, that's not going to be able to happen on a national scale. So we're helping our community, but we're also helping our country, believe it or not. It's kind of amazing. So thank you. I really, please keep the funding for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and I appreciate everyone's comments because it really gives me knowledge that I didn't have before about the role that BIG plays in my job and the potential role it can play in that job, as well as maybe my son will come down. Yeah, that's something that he can do, useful. Anyway, next is Mary Ann Mock.
Hello, my name is Marilyn Mott, 14 Valley Road. We are longtime Brookline residents, and our 24-year-old son Daniel, who's on the autism spectrum, has participated as an intern at BIG for the past 5 years. He has benefited greatly from his experience and has been able to pursue his love of animation and has learned a great deal from the staff about animation in many ways. For example, he has helped create several animated videos for the eBabble Club and created a claymation video to promote the program BIG is offering to the community. In addition, with the support of the staff and his job coach, he has learned various other skills, such as taking inventory, helping as a greeter during community program events, distributing flyers at the high school for upcoming programs. This internship has given him an opportunity to work as a member of a team in an office environment. I can't tell you how much that means to me. Daniel has developed skills which he would not have been able to do without this supportive and inclusive environment. His contribution to BIG has certainly improved his self-esteem and confidence, and is helping to better prepare him for future opportunities. We've been so gratified to see him flourish at BIG. We therefore urge you to strongly support full funding during the renegotiation process with RCN for Brookline Interactive Group. They are an amazing organization, and everyone who works there is absolutely incredible, not only in their technical skills, but their humanity. When my son first started working there, I wasn't sure this was going to be a good place for him and how this all work out. And they all just embraced him. They just were so incredible. I remember the first few weeks, I was a little bit concerned because his fine motor skills are not there. He can use an iPad, an iPhone, a computer, but his writing skills are not there. And he was supposed to sign in like all the other interns, and I knew he was just going to scribble something. And I thought to myself, he probably will feel badly looking at the list where everybody else signs their name, and his name would be sort of a scribble. So I called up at the time, this very lovely young lady, Andrea, who was working there, and I told her this, and she said, don't worry about it. I said, okay. The next week, my son came home and he said, Mom, I'm signing in on the computer. Andrea had found a free app somewhere on the computer that allowed him to sign in on the computer, which he can do very easily, put his name, his time that he came in, the time that he was leaving, and he really felt like part of the team. And for her, it was not a big deal. For me, as his mom, it was a very big deal. And that's how they've always done things when he was there. They've always included him, they've always welcomed him. Everybody working there just has this wonderful, wonderful way. And as parents, my husband and I both really appreciate it. And Kathy, when you listed all the things that you've been doing in the last year, amazing, beyond what I even thought you would do. So, kudos to you, and I really would love to see RCN do what they can for it, because as everybody said, it is really something for our entire community, young, old, disabled, whatever they need.
Thank you. And what I take away from your comment is that without BIG, I'll give you a little plug, Kathy, what your son can contribute to our community would be lost. And that is incredibly important, that we not lose those people who, for whatever reason, disabilities or whatever, would be lost to our community without the support that institutions like BIG and others provide. So I think that's very important. Yeah.
There's a few people who might have family situations where they need to run out. Is it possible if you were willing to let anyone
Sure.
really speak? I just wanted to ask that on behalf of Eli.
That's a good point. Is there
that
someone
okay with
that
everyone else? And you guys too, I know.
A daughter trumps a son who's waiting.
Are you sure?
Yes, please. Don't go
He's
down.
14.
My name's Kathy Edwards. I'm actually from Ottawa, Canada, but living in Revere Beach this year. I'm the executive director of the Canadian Association for Community Television. It's called Cactus. It's the national professional association that represents public access TV stations in Canada. Some of Cactus's members, like the Brookline Interactive Group, have made the transition from enabling the public to produce just TV on the traditional platform of cable TV to producing in a range of formats and new technologies, pushing the boundaries of how communities can tell their stories and communicate with one another. And examples include Big's groundbreaking work teaching the public how to develop their own video games, interactive and virtual reality content. So as Cactus's executive director, I'm spending this year in Boston working at the Engagement Lab at Emerson College, doing research to develop a methodology and set of training tutorials to enable public access TV stations in Canada and in the US to make the transition that Big's already made, and that's to integrate new technologies and to be on the leading edge. So enabling members of the public, like we've heard from tonight, to experiment, learn, and leverage technology for better communications. So as far as I'm concerned, and I've traveled to about 30 countries around the world that have public access infrastructure, Big is a shining star in this area, regionally, nationally, and internationally. So you're not just, one of your board members said, making an impact at the national level, but you're teaching another country how to do this business too. I've been studying what's been going on at Big as part of my research in order to emulate it and to extract best practices that others can follow. And I think the thing I've been most impressed by in Big's attitude, as I've come to understand it through Kathy, its executive director, she told me that Big tries to float all boats. And this expression captures, I think, not only the traditional work of a public access TV station in the role of enabling all the members of the community, like the previous lady's son, for example, to have an exercise of voice in community affairs, but it also describes Big's role as a leader in the public access field, forging ahead so that other folk like me can follow. So this is a really important organization, and I hope you can continue to provide it with the support it so richly deserves. Big would be a gem in any community. Thanks very much for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you. You're next.
Elon Fisher, I live in Roslindale, but I teach at the high school. I've been in high school for 23 years. And I have written a letter which I put in your file, but maybe very briefly I'll just say a few things. I'm here to tell you that we can save you money. By supporting Big, you will save a significant amount of money. And here's why. High school is amazing, as you know. We're one of the best high schools in the country. We're very proud of that. We grow as much as we can. We are, I would say, one of the best 20th century high schools there ever were. Unfortunately, as you know, we're almost 18 years into the 21st century, which poses some important problems. We continue to teach kids how to make posters. We continue to teach kids how to use PowerPoint. We continue to have kids write very good 5-paragraph essays. And we know how to do that. We do it really, really well. What we don't know how to do is what's going on at Big. And it's pretty clear to most people who look around them that posters and 5-paragraph essays and standardized tests and some of the other things that we do so well are not the future. So we're going to have a decision to make pretty soon. If we're going to move into the 21st century, we as a high school are going to need a pretty huge investment. We're going to need staff training, we're going to need staff, we're going to need equipment. Or we can save money by saying, Big is doing this, Big has it, let's embrace it. We've begun to do that a little bit, but only a little bit. We offer a few courses with Big right now so that a few of our students can take advantage during the school day with their terrific offerings, but it's small. We have a staff at the high school that's not really trained in the new media. And I think that most parents in this community want their kids trained in the new media. They want their kids to be able to participate in virtual reality. They want their kids to be able to produce the things that they're consuming at home. And again, we can pay for that by increasing the funding for schools, so we can build all these things, or we can say, let's hold on to big. Let's find a way to increase the funding for big so that they can become a more integrated part of the high school. And I think in the long run, not only is that the direction that we want to go, but I think it's the direction the taxpayers want us to go. Rather than trying to do everything by ourselves, taking advantage of really valuable resources that have been brought to mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Amy Ganusio.
Hi, I'm Amy Ganusio, 302 Walnut Street, Brookline. I'm an intern at BIG, and I actually moved here to Brookline in August from Utah, where I was born and raised. And first off, Brookline, you don't know how lucky you are to have BIG. Because where I come from, it's governed by a red party, and our news is grossly edited. I didn't know you could be a part of a media community. I didn't know I could be part of a community, part of the bigger world, part of the bigger picture. So I actually went to school at University of Utah and graduated from film school and graduated in 2014. Ever since then, I've been looking for a place like BIG that could actually mentor me, inspire me, and tell me I could do it. I can be an amazing professional filmmaker now. And I just wanted to say that about BIG to Brookline. And RCN, you may be thinking like, who's all these people? Okay, we get it, you love BIG. But actually, you need to listen, this is your own market talking. This is not just BIG's market. If people love BIG, they love you, RCN. I don't think what BIG's asking for is unreasonable. Closed captioning, guide programming, viewer statistics, and promotional advertising. Shouldn't every TV station already have that? And if you just give us a chance, give BIG a chance, give us funding, you will see amazing things happening. And I know Brookline, it can make Brookline huge, and I know amazing things will happen because I'm a part of BIG now too, so that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I like the way that you made the connection between BIG's success and RCN's success. And I think that's important. As I learn more, I can give you more details as to how that's important, but it's clearly the case. Next is Sarah Wallison? Wallison, sorry.
Hello. I have a son at Pierce School. I actually live in Rosendale. And I'm also director of the MIT Open Documentary Lab. We study and incubate new forms of storytelling. Community media is a key resource for creative expression, self-representation, and community building in any community. And BIG is an exemplary model of community impact, as we've seen today and heard all these stories. At this moment of transition in the workplace, BIG has become an essential training ground for 21st century skills, including digital and visual literacies, creative and critical thinking, leadership, and collaboration skills. As technology continues to transform the way we communicate, how we receive information, and the skills needed in the 21st century, training and retraining is essential. The BIG curriculum and access to emerging technologies has made it an indispensable community institution for adults, children, professional media makers, and others wanting to learn new skills and tell their stories. BIG has distinguished itself as one of the most important community media centers in this country because of its directors' understanding and vision of where media is headed and her ability to bring it to her constituents. As someone who studies emerging media and institutions, I can confidently say that BIG is a model for community media because it is making traditionally exclusive communication technologies such as virtual reality available to anyone in Brookline who wants to create and watch media today. That's not easy, no one else is doing that. BIG launched the first public VR lab in the country. As someone who has learned how to create media at my local media center, that's where I started in Boston, and turned it into a successful career as a media professional, I can vouch for the quality and relevance of the skills taught at community media centers. As a mother of a Brookline student, I have seen firsthand the important role BIG plays for Brookline students who need to learn 21st century skills, as the teacher here was saying, and have access to an outlet for their talents and opinions. BIG offers workshops and other trainings and develops partnerships with local organizations to reach community members. At a time when fake news is abundant and local media is being recognized as an essential community resource, the importance of supporting BIG and negotiating for continued funds is of paramount importance. I strongly urge you to support BIG during this renegotiation process to ensure that it remains a vital community media resource.
Thank you. Next is Susan O'Connor.
Hi, I'm Susan O'Connor. I'm not a Brookline resident. I'm the new general manager of Boston Neighborhood Network, one of the people who look up to BIG for what it has done, not only for me as a newbie in this whole management of a PEG station. And I've come to express my concern and also to really encourage RCN to continue its support of BIG. We recently went through a negotiation process for funding, not only with RCN, but also with Comcast and Verizon. And quite frankly, I only wish that BNN had the same level of creativity in programming, the quality of programming, innovative use of technology that BIG has, and it would have made our job a whole lot easier. I think that there are both tangible and intangible contributions that BIG makes to Brookline itself and to the entire public access media as a whole. We have media producers instead of simply consumers of media that other people create because that's what they think people want and that's how they think people should think. One of the big concerns is that BIG and other access stations give residents a local voice, and I think this is going to become even more and more important as we see the FCC rescinding the main studio rule. And the other thing is I think that to Brookline, there are very creative ways that Brookline is being represented all over the world because of the work that BIG is doing. To other public access stations, BIG is really a leader in the innovative use of technologies, and it really has set an example and a very high bar for the variety of media services that access stations should provide. So I can only hope and recommend that in the negotiations with RCN that you strongly encourage them to continue support. And I have two questions that you might want to ask them. Number one is, how many customers will RCN lose if they fail to support BIG? And the other question is, what would be the cost to Brookline if RCN fails to support BIG? Everybody who knows me understands I like numbers. Give me a number, we'll be happy. So what is the actual ROI to the residents of BIG, the residents of Brookline, and to Brookline as a community for every dollar that RCN puts in? What's the real value of that? What would it cost for someone who's not a public access station to provide that same level of service? Or what would it cost on the open market if Brookline had to actually go and build those services themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy Emmett. I'm sorry, Emmert.
Brief, it's getting late. So, Amy Emmert, I live at 1141 Beacon Street, Brookline. And I just want to say a few words to the residents, selectmen, representatives of RCN. I'm here to support your efforts to negotiate a renewal of the contract with our community's cable company, franchise RCN, to support our Brookline Community Media Organization, Brookline Interactive Group. Over the past 2 years, I've served as a board member of BIG, and I've had the wonderful good fortune to witness this amazing and now nationally and apparently internationally recognized program as it's transformed itself into a 21st century community media innovation hub and center of digital literacy in Brookline. I also currently serve as chairman of the Brookline Commission for the Arts and as a board member for Arts Brookline. Brookline Interactive Group, with its outstanding management and leadership, has served these cultural efforts enthusiastically and exceptionally effectively, enabling the dissemination of more music and other cultural programs to be brought to broader audiences than ever before. The big programming has grown exponentially since I've been here to serve more and more residents, as well as connect with other community media programs to help deliver the full benefits of network development. And they've evolved a truly unique and inclusive storytelling ecosystem, which I think is very special and valuable. This incredibly productive enterprise has become a beacon and case study nationally for creative use of resources, creativity and inventiveness of content, efficient production, and generous teaching and training to all segments of our community. But that does not mean that this organization can continue to grow and assist in the cultural and economic development of our community without baseline resources to ensure appropriate equipment replacement, staffing, and communication and marketing, and other ways to ensure our residents have access to this high-value resource. The organization must continue to be provided with reliable backbone funding so that baseline programs and resources can be ensured, while innovative programs, expansion of education programs, and development of projects and networks can in turn help develop new sources of funding to have it remain growing into the future. You've heard many examples of the programs created by BIG over the past couple of years, and the list is obviously far too long to go over here. It's incredibly impressive. But I would like to say that from my perspective, as an executive during my day job, a pretty large and very complex organization, that BIG is one of the most effective organizations that I've ever had the opportunity to know well. Although very small, BIG has delivered outsized impact on the community and has an even bigger agenda and community need to fill as they go forward. RCN really makes a huge contribution to this community with this support, and the opportunities for synergies between BIG and RCN seem boundless. I hope we can move forward together, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Next is Charlie Walsh. Is Charlie Walsh here?
Good day, Scott.
Okay.
Hi. I'm Dale Lashinsky. I have nothing formally prepared. I've known BIG for years. I'm a resident, and I knew BIG years ago when I needed some help with some media. I'm a small business owner and also chair of Brookline of the Cooler Corner Merchants Association, and so worked again with BIG around creating a better way of telling the story that we have in Coolidge Corner and keeping it a vibrant and exciting place to live. And then Kathy asked me to be part of the board. So I'm also part of the board, so I clearly have a stake in the organization and where it's going. When I think about the notion of funding this effort, I think about it from two distinct perspectives. Number one is this a good thing in and of itself? And in and of itself, what we're talking about is taking a small percentage of money that's coming in for media in general and putting a setback or a small percentage to support the notion of using the technology as an effective storytelling mechanism and providing a means of training people, population, students in the use of that technology. So by itself, there's an enormous merit in continuing the funding. As a separate question, you say, okay, this is great, it's a good thing to do, but is this organization worthy? Do they deserve that funding? And furthermore, are they not only embodying the goals of the organization, but furthermore, they provide specific examples for leadership. And in the case of BIG, they meet every possible criteria very admirably. Say that. You know what I mean. You know, so I came in the middle. I was running another event up in Coolidge Corners. I dashed over here. I'm sorry I missed some of the earlier remarks. But what I can say is that the BIG organization is incredibly impressive. They have made an impact not only locally and nationally, but internationally. They embody the ability to understand and articulate how to take media and make it accessible to a new audience. And not only that, they have not stayed saying, oh, gee, we're only focusing on our roots, but they've looked at the importance behind the initiative to begin with. It's the spirit behind the law of embodying some of the new things, embracing some new things. I think it's incredibly vital and important to continue to fund this effort, to continue to fund BIG, to increase their ability and their funding and their ability to reach and touch more people and more organizations, not only for the technology we're dealing with today, VR, AR, and all the other different Rs that are out there, but also to think about the fact that technology is changing. It's changing rapidly. It's dizzying. And what BIG has been able to figure out is how do you start from one base and then begin to move not just an organization but a community as the technology itself evolves. What we know is it's going to continue to evolve. And I would certainly say that the perspective that BIG has is a very valuable perspective to understand that then can be transmitted to other organizations in the region. So I strongly urge you and support the funding requirements for BIG. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who has not signed up who, okay, Aaron.
Thank you, Selectman Green. My name is Kara Bruton. I'm the Economic Development Director for the town of Brookline, and we've all been running from other meetings. But a couple quick stories, examples of how BIG has worked as a partner with the town for us to do a better job of getting communication out to larger pools of the public and in more compelling ways. So as far as community and education, there was Kathy kind of knitted together that fact that as part of this video processing, and she's educating us about all the editing, the camouflaging that has to happen, the erasing of media that happens before we see it on even a show like PBS, that, oh my goodness, what else is being edited and camouflaged and erased that we're watching? And that wasn't just educating me, that was educating 100 Brookline residents. And that was just one night. and I know that you do this all day, every day, in so many different forms. And finally, the event itself was a community building exercise. It wasn't the typical people I usually see at Town Hall. It was a mix of ages, backgrounds, abilities, and so just the event itself, I think going to a common thing like technology and learning about new media is a community building piece. Second thing, more specifically, recently we hired BIG to help us with some documentation of public art in the town. The Smithsonian has a national database of public art throughout the country. We were looking at it once for some grants and other things in partnership with the Arts Commission, and realized that a lot of the photos of the public art that the Smithsonian thinks that we have, a lot of that public art is gone. It's just not there where it says it should be. So we felt like it was a good opportunity for us to document public art again. And again, what Brookline Interactive did for us is they didn't just come out with a video camera, but said, you know, some of this public art is important, not just because of the statue or the item that you might see, but also because of the context around it. So using the 360 cameras and the visual reality kind of viewing of that public art, you can see things like the statue of 3 women in Brookline Place Plaza, and it's much more impressive when you understand the context that the public art is in. So kind of understanding that twist of why some of our public assets are important is important, and it's documented locally by people that understand things locally, but then it's broadcast nationally across the country through institutions that are keeping track of this. And finally, just having Brookline Interactive as a local source whose mission is for the community first. You know, we could hire consultants if we had enough money in our budget to do videography for us or to keep track of our video database for selectmen's meetings or whatever. But I know that when I call that phone number that's on the Brookline Interactive, if the feed happens to be down or someone's microphone isn't on, whoever is at that desk answers immediately and turns it back on and fix it. And that's not something we would have if we had to rely on consultants or those that didn't have a public mission first. So that's how Brookline Interactive affects my life. Thank you for making my job easier and more compelling.
Thank you. And anyone else would like to speak? Or give testimony, sorry.
Hi, my name is Yusuf Agha and I live down the street, resident of Brookline for the last 20 years. I've actually been associated with BIG, as it was known as BATV in those days, Brookline Access, since 2003. We used to have a couple of rooms off Commonwealth Avenue, and they were really musty, small editing facilities, really antiquated cameras, and we used to make our films there. I used to volunteer to edit some videos for people. And then I took a little bit of a hiatus, and then I came back a few years ago, and I was surprised to see what I saw. And it's amazing what a little funding can do to a great organization. Because the way BIG has become now, it's an amazing organization. I walked in and I saw this crew of people who were ready to help. I had a project to do, and I can't even tell you what kind of support I got from the BIG staff. I mean, it was way over and above the call of duty. At one point, my own personal laptop started to fail me and I couldn't complete my project. And they stepped in and they helped me fix that up. It's just amazing. And you know, I've worked with Kathy and the team, and they are amazing people. They really do great work. One of the things that really amazed me for a local access television station to do was the virtual reality labs. It's something that you expect to see at an organization like MIT or something of that sort. But for local access television to put that together, it's really amazing. And to get students involved, it's great work. I really congratulate you for your great work. The other thing that I've been involved in is working on a personal project. And I was lucky enough to get a grant from BIG, and I was able to complete a movie that I had needed to do for many years. So I really encourage the support that RCN could do for BIG. And I think that BIG needs to grow even bigger. I mean, I work with the Senior Center as well, and we've already reached out to BIG, and BIG has come and helped us in several projects that we're doing. We need to have more big presence in these other community areas that we have, like the library, for example. I mean, people don't just have to go to the high school, but I mean, Big should come to the library and do some work there and show people what you're doing. At the senior center itself, I mean, you've got all these people who are old, they don't think they can do the work on television and things of that sort. But once they see what they're capable of doing, it's amazing what they can do. So I strongly request that RCN consider this support to Big, and I thank you for what you've been doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other testimony that you want to give? Okay, well, it's been interesting to hear all the great things about Big, but this is really RCN's show. And, you know, Big represents, you know, how RCN, in the license that it has with the town of Brookline, it provides an important, incredible service to the community. But I'd like to give Mr. Tom Steele of RCN an opportunity to make any comments that he may have regarding this hearing. And remember, this is an ascertainment hearing to prepare us for the next phase, which is basically negotiation of a license agreement.
Thank you. Nice to see a turnout for something like a cable license these days. My name is Tom Steele. I'm Vice President and Regulatory Counsel for RCN. I've been with RCN for 20 years. I was here back when we first came to compete against Cablevision at the time here in Brookline. Brookline was really our second community to give us a franchise and get us started. Always a demanding community. You do not get away with anything in Brookline. But we're a small company. We compete against the incumbent cable operator, and that's what we do in all our communities. It's not an easy task, especially against companies the size of Comcast and Verizon and other communities. Sometimes we compete against both. So we are very small compared to the companies the size of Comcast, but we do try harder in a lot of ways. In one way that I felt was important, I go back, everybody's telling their personal story, it was all very interesting. I go back as a cable commissioner in the early 80s. I was a very young commissioner in the early 80s. And when cable companies would come to town, there would be 5, 10, 15 cable companies in those early days competing for the one franchise, because you would have that license to be the only provider, and you were a monopoly cable operator and you tried what you want, all those things that people said. But they began to say, like in Newton, they would say, we'll give you trees down your street, or we'll build you a library, or your baseball fields will be improved. We'll do all these, we'll spend all this money, pick us over these other 10 that are competing. So as commissioner, I said, that doesn't help the cable subscribers at all. I said, you cannot do that. So I had a rule that we rigidly enforced. It said, if you want to offer things, then you offer things that benefit subscribers. And I would recommend public access. And so they said, okay, we'll give them a van, we'll give them a studio, we'll give them a staff, we'll do all these things. And you should know that you're lucky here in the Commonwealth, you're lucky here in Brookline, because public access is not such a major force around the country. A lot of pockets where there are. I know when Kathy came in, she made a huge difference here in Brookline. But so they began to fund it, and it grew, and it is part of our culture here in the Commonwealth to have very active, aggressive, informative. It helps seniors like me who can't get out to meetings. It helps young people in the high schools and the schools. It helps everyone. And I've heard all the stories, and I totally agree with all of them. To show you, so we're supportive of access. We have big supporters of big. So for instance, a couple of years ago, probably even more, like 2013, 14, I began to hear from access folks that we need to be on the HD channels. People who are only watching HD programming, it's only getting more and more. You only go to the HD tier and watch programming. If you put on an SD channel, it'll shift you automatically to HD in a lot of systems. So I said, and they said, well, we can't even get this old equipment. We have HD equipment that's no good to us. We're making these HD quality programs, and we have to gear it down to show it on your cable systems. I said, it's So I talked to our folks in network engineering, and they said, we have the capacity, we can give 3 channels, we can give 1. And so I said, okay, it's Kathy knows it's not as easy as it sounds to just turn on an HD channel, but we offer the capability to use our system for HD programming. People that are surfing will pick up on programming that might not otherwise see, and you get to use your equipment the way it should be used, and the quality of the programming is there. I hoped, selfishly, that people would be as impressed with it and see it as an opportunity to go to a company that offers HD programming for local access as well. I don't know how that impacts it or not, I don't care really, but we, I think it was BATV or something, they weren't as, I think they were having some issues 2 years back. When did you come, Kathy?
3 years ago.
3, yeah. And since then, it's been dramatic here in Brookline. Kathy's been great. She didn't let our offer of HD drop. She picked right up on it and came after us, as have a number of other communities. Now, you can twist my arm, and I may even go to three HD channels for you during this renewal process. And as opposed to now where I said to the access groups, if you could support us, you can pay for your own equipment, we'll give you the programming. In the renewal process, I may be convinced to pay for the programming, for the equipment to get the programming connected and do that well. And we give you the capacity, which is a broadband capacity, which is a value to us, which we're willing to share with you and with the community. So we're supportive. We already give a pretty high grant, and we'll, again, the selectmen will work on me for that. But in general, we do all we can to support you. I personally, and my company behind me, are supportive of public access, and so there's a lot more that goes into a cable franchise. We have over 200 miles of fiber here in the town of Brookline, and that connects some 40 buildings in other sites. You can use that. In these days of streaming, you can use that to do live remotes from all over the town. And increasingly, the challenge for Kathy and for all of you is to get into people's homes, not just through cable TV, but through streaming and through the internet. We're in a competitive market, so we're always looking to increase speeds to keep our customers. People are not taking our cable so much and just taking our broadband. All the cable operators are experiencing that. So you'll need to rise to that challenge. We offer a gig service to customers so they can download your programming, do all kinds of things that they want. But it's a changing world. So for our part, I'm happy to be here tonight. I'm happy to listen to all your stories. I appreciate them. I know that over the years and into the future, access makes a difference, particularly as we have an aging community and the demographic in Brookline. There's a lot of seniors that need your support. And then the young people get excited about it. Kathy, I'm sorry, but they'll liable to jump onto YouTube over you, but who knows? But it's all there for you. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. I'm happy to answer them.
I want to know if you'll come to Washington, D.C. with us and go talk to Congress and the FCC about your wonderful support of our community and public access.
Well, I've gone to the State House, but I don't know about Washington, D.C.
I'll go to the State House with you.
Yeah. No, I agree. So, any other questions? It's been a long night. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be easy. I'm easy.
Okay. Okay, that was a very interesting, long evening. But we're at the end. If there is no further testimony, that concludes tonight's public hearing. But there are a couple things I'd like to say. I'll keep tonight's hearing open for 21 days in order to receive additional testimony. And people who haven't given me their testimony given tonight, I urge you to send it to the Board of Selectmen at some point within that 21-day period. We do read them. Maybe not everyone reads everything, but we'll get summaries and a sense of what people are thinking. And I'll discuss with other board members, my experience tonight and all the things I learned and interesting things that were parts of people's stories. Let's see. Written testimony or comments, yeah, I said that. 21 days.
Bernard, where do people send that? Do you want them to send it directly to Austin? Mail to the town?
Well, to the town of Brookline, Board of Selectmen, and it'll get to us.
Just for our folks who are watching on the cable channels right now and also on the internet, we want to make sure we know where to send them. So we can-
Right,
we'll put
okay.
the address up.
What is our address? 333 Washington Street, Brookline, Massachusetts, 02245. That's at the address of Town Hall. Put it to the attention of Board of Selectmen, and send any comments, any additional testimony that you may have. Let's see. Well, thank you for attending, and I hope that it was as interesting to you as it was to me. And that concludes our hearing. Thank you.